It's actually it's a little terrifying to think about, but right now, as you are listening to this, you are operating on a razor-thin margin of attention. We all are, honestly.
Oh, yeah, completely. We really are.
Like, just picture yourself scrolling through your feed on your phone.
Mm.
Your thumb is basically just a blur.
Right, just constant motion.
Exactly. And in that motion, you are making this subconscious decision to either engage with the piece of content or completely discard it. And you're doing this within a microscopic, like, 1.5 to 3 second window.
It's a really brutal environment for communication, if you think about it. I mean, within 3 seconds, you have to prove that whatever you're offering is worth trading for a sliver of a person's life.
Yeah.
And, failing to do so doesn't just mean your content gets a low grade. It means your content simply ceases to exist in their reality entirely.
That terrifying reality is exactly what this deep dive is all about. Welcome in, by the way. I'm your host, and we are jumping right in today.
Glad to be here. And yeah, we have a massive stack of sources to get through today.
We really do. We're pulling from everything, highly guarded conversion copywriting manuals, cutting-edge YouTube optimization playbooks, and even, like, neuropsychological analyses of human attention.
It's a very specific intersection we're looking at here. It's really where data science meets human biology, but it's all wrapped in the art of communication.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to completely deconstruct the science, the psychology, and the mechanics of the hook.
Right.
We're going to uncover how creators actually get you to click, the mathematical formulas that consistently win, and how you can apply these techniques yourself, without crossing the line into cheap clickbait.
And just to set the stakes for how critical this initial capture is, we can actually look all the way back to 1963.
Oh, wow, that far back.
Yeah, to the advertising executive David Ogilvy. He coined this 80-20 rule of reading.
Okay, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah, through his research, he found that, on average, 80% of people will read a headline, but only 20% will actually read the body copy beneath it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Over 60 years later, we've moved from print newspapers to TikTok. Yet that ratio still governs basically everything we do.
It absolutely does.
Like, if your hook fails in that 3-second window, it really doesn't matter if you've written the greatest article or filmed the most visually stunning video in human history. It's just invisible.
Exactly. The medium changed, sure, but the biological hardware of the audience didn't change at all.
Right.
So before we start exploring the specific text formulas that modern marketers use, we really have to look at the vulnerabilities hardwired into the human brain that make those formulas work in the first place.
Because there's a biological reaction happening long before the conscious mind even realizes it's reading a sentence?
Yes, exactly. It's not just an appreciation for a clever turn of phrase. We are reacting physically to the words.
That's wild. So what's actually happening in the brain?
Well, the foundational mechanism here was coined by a behavioral economist named George Lowenstein. He called it the curiosity gap.
The curiosity gap.
Right. This gap is essentially the cognitive discomfort that arises from the distance between what we currently know and what we desperately want to know.
Oh, interesting.
When a hook successfully highlights a missing piece of information, your brain literally enters a state of tension.
It sounds like the curiosity gap is literally a cognitive mosquito bite. Like, it's there, it's incredibly annoying, and you just have to scratch it to get relief.
That is a perfect analogy.
And the only way to scratch it is to click and close the loop.
Exactly. And that tension is physically real to the brain. It's also amplified by another psychological mechanism known as the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect. What's that?
It's a principle stating that the human brain fixates on incomplete tasks. So if you finish a puzzle, your brain immediately dumps it from active memory.
Makes sense.
But if you walk away with one piece missing, your brain will completely obsess over it. A great hook functions as that missing piece.
Wow, so it initiates a narrative arc, but actively refuses to close it until you engage.
You nailed it.
But the sources actually make a crucial distinction here regarding the type of itch we are scratching, right? They separate human curiosity into two different buckets.
They do, yeah. First, there's what they call divided curiosity.
Right, which is that surface-level impulse that makes you click on an outrageous, gossipy headline.
Exactly. It's the digital equivalent of slowing down your car to look at a fender bender on the highway.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Right, and that type of curiosity might generate a massive spike in clicks, but it's completely hollow. It doesn't build loyalty or a long-term audience.
It's the second bucket.
The counterpart to that is epistemic curiosity. This is a deep, genuine, almost academic desire to learn and understand something new.
Oh, okay.
When copywriters target epistemic curiosity, they're aiming for sustained engagement. They want the reader to actually feel smarter after the interaction.
I feel like I see this all the time with what the source is called the one rule framework. It's literally everywhere. Like, he was ignored until he learned this one rule, or the one habit that changed my morning routine.
Oh, it's everywhere for a reason.
Why is our brain so defenseless against the word one?
Well, it entirely comes down to managing cognitive load. Every single day, the brain is bombarded with complex, multi-step problems. It's exhausting.
Yeah, decision fatigue is real.
Exactly. So when a hook promises a singular distilled solution, a one rule or one trick, it dramatically lowers the perceived effort barrier.
Oh, I see.
The brain is essentially tricked into believing that a massive, life-altering transformation is achievable with just a microscopic investment of energy.
I'm listening to this and honestly feeling a bit alarmed. I mean, if we are just a collection of cognitive mosquito bites and aversions to effort, marketers are basically weaponizing human biology to force us to click.
It does sound a bit dystopian when you put it that way.
Right, like it sounds like they don't even need good content if they can just hack the biological trigger.
Well, the reality of the modern attention economy is that copywriters have largely abandoned creative guesswork. They aren't just hoping their words will resonate anymore.
They're using data.
Exactly. They are deploying mathematical data-backed formulas engineered specifically to trigger that biological closure-seeking response we talked about.
And we see that mathematically proven in a massive study from Sumo that was included in our sources today.
Yes, that study is fascinating.
They analyzed over 150,000 headlines to see what actually works in the wild. And the results are honestly pretty humbling for anyone who considers themselves an artistic writer.
They really are, because the data revealed that boring, heavily formula-driven headlines outperform clever, creative, pun-filled headlines about 88% of the time.
Wait, 88%? That is a landslide. It basically implies that being creative might actually be hurting your content.
It often does. And to understand why, we have to look at the concept of cognitive friction. A headline is a split-second cost-benefit calculation.
Okay, so how does creativity hurt that calculation?
Well, when you see a clever pun in a headline, your brain has to stop, decode the joke, understand the metaphor, and then figure out what the article is actually about.
Oh, so it's like walking up to a store that looks interesting, but the owner makes you solve a riddle before you can even open the front door.
That's a great way to look at it. Most people are just going to walk away. That's cognitive friction in a nutshell.
Right.
A formulaic headline removes the door entirely. It clearly states the benefit, which instantly justifies the cost of the reader's time.
And one of the most effective ways to remove that friction, according to the data, is by using numbers. But the sources are very specific, not just any numbers. Specific digits act as heavy anchor points for credibility.
Yes, specificity is key here.
Like a headline saying, "How I made $10,427 vastly outperforms how I made $10,000.
The underlying neurology of how we process digits is so fascinating. When the brain encounters a round number like 10,000, it automatically categorizes it as a marketing estimate.
It feels fluffy, like they just made it up.
Exactly. It feels almost fictional. But an odd, highly specific number like $10,427 forces the brain to read it as a credible, undeniable fact.
Because it implies that a human being actually sat down, calculated the math, and checked the receipts.
Precisely. Extreme contrast leverages that same neurology, too.
Oh, like a video titled, "I tested a $4 mic."
Yes. That works incredibly well because the number is unexpectedly low. The sheer contrast between a piece of professional technology and a price tag of $4 creates an immediate severe curiosity gap.
That makes total sense. But beyond just the digits, there's an entire science devoted to the linguistic engineering of the words themselves, right?
Oh, absolutely. The data heavily favors active verbs over passive gerunds.
So if someone is writing a business article, using a phrase like improving your sales process fails, but double your sales in 30 days wins.
Exactly. Because improving is an abstract, continuous concept. The brain cannot easily visualize the act of improving. It just feels like a chore without an end date.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
But double is a concrete action. The brain can instantly picture a pile of money and then picture a second pile of money appearing right next to it. It creates immediate visualization.
Orbit Media shared a fantastic structural trick that forces this kind of visualization, called the keyword plus colon framework.
I love that framework.
It's essentially target key phrase, trigger word plus promise. An example would be, SEO marketing.
Mhm.
5 secrets to double your traffic.
That structure is brilliant because the dual-purpose tool. The front half, SEO marketing, feeds the search engine algorithm exactly what it needs to categorize the content.
And then the back half feeds the humans.
Yes. The secrets and the promise feed human psychology exactly what it craves.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. As I was going through the playbooks, I noticed this massive contradiction regarding how long these headlines should actually be.
Oh, the truncation debate.
Yes, the optimization guides are screaming that mobile screens truncate titles at around 60 characters. So if the most compelling part of your hook is sitting at character 70, it's just invisible to the user. You must front-load your impact words.
Right, that's the standard advice.
But then, the data from analyzing millions of Facebook posts shows that 15-word headlines, which are incredibly long, consistently get the highest engagement.
Yeah, reconciling those two facts really comes down to platform context and understanding the specific environment where the hook lives.
How so?
Well, if you are optimizing for a search engine results page or an email inbox, truncation is a hard technical limit. You have to play by the 60-character rule.
Because the screen literally cuts you off.
Exactly. But on a social feed where the user is scrolling vertically and the text wraps naturally across multiple lines, a 15-word headline works beautifully. It provides enough real estate to build complete narrative tension.
No, so you actually have the space to tell a microstory before they even click.
Yes, you can set up the before, the after, and the bridge. The reader gets a much deeper cost-benefit analysis before they ever have to commit their attention.
So words are highly dependent on the screen they appear on, which means as screens become more image-centric, words alone are kind of failing to capture attention fast enough.
They are. When you move to a heavily visual platform like YouTube, text and imagery have to interact flawlessly, or the algorithm will bury the content before it ever reaches an audience.
Visual platforms really require a completely different strategic approach. The sources refer to the core strategy here as the 1 + 1 = 3 principle.
It's a great rule of thumb.
I was looking at this 1 + 1 = 3 rule in the notes. Does this mean the title and the thumbnail are essentially doing 2 entirely different jobs rather than just describing the video?
Yes, they are a binary pair that must work together to tell a story, but they should never, ever repeat the same information. If you repeat yourself, 1 + 1 just equals 1.
Right.
But if they complement each other, they synthesize a third, much more powerful layer of meaning. That's the 1 + 1 = 3.
Now, let's go back to our microphone example. If your thumbnail features huge, bold text saying $4 IC next to a picture of you holding it, your title should definitely not be, I tested a $4 mic. That's totally redundant.
It is. And you've just wasted the most valuable real estate on the platform. The title must be the payoff to the thumbnail's setup.
So what would be a better title?
A better title would be, and it sounds better than my $400 setup. The thumbnail provides the object of curiosity, and the title provides the high-stakes, nearly unbelievable comparison.
And together they form an irresistible gap in knowledge.
Exactly.
But when it comes to the actual text placed on the thumbnail image itself, the rules seem really ruthless. Like the data shows you have a limit of 0 to 3 words max.
0 to 3 words, yes.
Because anything more than 3 words introduces that cognitive friction we talked about earlier, right? People are scrolling on tiny mobile screens. If they have to squint to read a paragraph layered over an image, they aren't going to try to solve the riddle. They'll just keep swiping.
Yeah, and honestly, the text is secondary anyway. The absolute most vital visual element you can place on a thumbnail is a human face.
Really?
Right.
A face makes that much of a difference.
Huge difference. Research indicates that thumbnails featuring human faces drive an astonishing 921,000 more views on average than object-only thumbnails.
That is nearly 1 million extra views just for putting your face in the picture.
It's crazy, but it makes sense because we possess hardwired facial recognition priority in our brains. Long before we process text or abstract shapes, our visual cortex is scanning for and locking onto eyes and expressions.
But it's not just any expression that works, is it? This brings us to what the researchers call the sadness paradox.
Oh man, the data on this is wild.
Yeah, tell me about it.
When analysts looked at facial expressions across top-performing thumbnails, they found that happy faces are everywhere, appearing in about 25% of all thumbnails. Sad faces, however, appear in only 1.8%.
Very rare.
Right. Yet, those incredibly rare sad faces achieve the highest average views across the entire platform, sitting at 2.3 million views per video.
Wait, if the mathematical data proves that sad or devastated faces statistically win the click every single time, Why hasn't YouTube just turned into a depressing sea of crying faces? Like, that formula seems like it would destroy the platform's entire user experience.
That's a great point. Platforms constantly battle this kind of optimization fatigue. If every creator faked a devastating emotional crisis on their thumbnail, the signal would rapidly lose its power.
People would just get numb to it.
Exactly. The human brain would categorize it as background noise. The creators who win long-term definitely use these emotional triggers, but the emotion on the thumbnail has to actually match the emotional core of the video.
That attention to detail explains why you see massive creators like Mr. Beast spending like up to $10,000 per video just A/B testing different thumbnails.
Oh yeah, he treats it like a science experiment. He isn't just testing images, he is testing human microreactions to slight variations in visual stimuli.
10 grand just on testing the picture.
He'll test up to 20 variations of a thumbnail to find the exact combination of facial expression, background color, and text placement that maximizes the click-through rate without crossing the line into deception.
The packaging of the content is treated with the same scientific rigor as the content itself,
Sometimes even more so.
which is fascinating, but it highlights a massive vulnerability in this entire attention economy. I mean, if we possess the power to manipulate visual and textual psychology to this degree, to engineer a curiosity gap that people literally cannot resist, what happens when the promise is just a lie?
This is where we get into the ethics of attention. The sources actually outline a very strict distinction between a catchy hook and clickbait. Interestingly enough, they both use the exact same psychological triggers.
They both use the curiosity gap and the Zeigarnik effect.
Right, and the emotional contrast. The difference between the two lies entirely in the delivery.
So a catchy hook creates a massive gap in your knowledge, but then the content actually delivers on the promise and closes the loop.
Yes. Whereas clickbait engineers the exact same gap, harvests the click from you, and then just leaves you hanging.
It creates a severe disconnect between the expectation and the reality.
Exactly.
The sources gave some pretty visceral examples of this difference. A catchy hook would be a headline promising a recipe for glowing skin that actually leads to a highly educational, well-researched post about a collagen chocolate recipe. Like, it sounded almost too good to be true, but it actually delivered real value.
Right, it satisfied the epistemic curiosity.
But clickbait is that terrible headline you see at the bottom of an article about a surprising doctor reveal regarding a local adoption.
The ones that force you through an endless maze of web pages.
Yes. You click it, and it forces you to click next through 18 different ad-fill pages just to learn that the surprising reveal was simply that the mother was pregnant with twins.
It's the worst. Or, even worse, the fake diet pill ads that steal the names of real doctors to push a scam.
Right. It's pure biological manipulation with zero payoff.
Historically, clickbait was incredibly profitable because early algorithms only measured the initial click. They couldn't tell what happened afterward.
They just saw the traffic and rewarded it.
Exactly. But the platforms have evolved significantly since then. Systems like YouTube's algorithm and Google's Gemini AI are incredibly sophisticated now. They no longer just measure the click-through rate. They prioritize semantic intent.
How does an algorithm actually measure semantic intent? I mean, it's not a human. Can't read my mind to know if I was actually satisfied with the article.
It measures satisfaction through proxy signals, so primarily things like watch time, dwell time, and retention.
Oh, okay.
If a deceptive clickbait hook drives a massive click-through rate, say 15% of people scrolling actually click on it, the algorithm initially pays attention. But if the viewer realizes they've been duped and bounces off the page after 10 seconds, the algorithm registers that massive drop-off.
It learns that the hook was an empty promise.
Yes, it flags the content as deceptive, and then algorithmic death follows. The system will actively kill the reach of that piece of content.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, relying on clickbait creates what I'd call a credibility hangover.
A credibility hangover, I like that.
Yeah, because using manipulative hooks is exactly like eating junk food. It gives the creator this massive, quick dopamine hit because their initial analytics spike. But 30 minutes later, the audience feels sick, the algorithm actively punishes the creator's channel, and all long-term trust is basically destroyed.
And trust is really the only metric that compounds over time.
Right.
For ethical copywriters, the real challenge is finding those irresistible, highly clickable words without resorting to making up hype. And they achieve this through voice of customer or VOC research.
Let's dig into the mechanics of that real quick. What does a writer actually do when they conduct voice of customer research?
Instead of sitting in a boardroom trying to invent clever psychological triggers out of thin air, Ethical writers mine their own customer interactions.
Where do they look?
They read through hundreds of support tickets, sales call transcripts, and product reviews. They are looking for the bizarre, specific, and highly emotional adjectives a frustrated customer uses to describe their problem.
So they lift the exact phrasing the customer used and put that directly into the headline.
Yes. When you use the customer's own language as the hook, you bypass the need for manipulation entirely. It doesn't feel like a sales pitch. It feels deeply empathetic.
Oh, because the customer reads the headline and feels like the brand is reading their mind.
Exactly, because the brand is literally repeating their own thoughts back to them.
Wow. We have covered a massive amount of ground today. If you are listening to this, you now know that mastering the hook is not just about being a naturally gifted writer.
Not at all.
It's a precise blend of neuropsychology, targeting that curiosity gap and leveraging the Zeigarnik effect. It requires mathematical precision, deploying specific odd numbers, and navigating strict 60-character limits. It demands visual synergy, mastering that 1 + 1 3 rule for thumbnails and titles. And above all, it requires ethical delivery to avoid the credibility hangover and keep those highly advanced algorithms satisfied.
It truly is an invisible architecture that surrounds our digital lives every single day.
It really is. And whether you are writing an email subject line to get your boss's attention, pitching a new project, or just scrolling through your social feed on the couch tonight, you are now equipped to see the matrix.
You can see the gears turning.
Exactly. You can see the invisible gears of how your attention is being captured, and you understand how to ethically capture the attention of others.
Absolutely.
So, what does this all mean? I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We discussed how Google's Gemini AI and other predictive algorithms are now capable of flawlessly analyzing semantic data and measuring human satisfaction, right?
Right.
Well, if AI is now capable of predicting the exact sequence of words and images that trigger our brain's curiosity gap and can generate millions of these perfectly optimized, biologically irresistible hooks on demand, will human neurology eventually build a permanent tolerance to the curiosity gap? Yeah, that's a heavy thought. In a few years, as we are constantly bombarded by flawless AI-generated psychological triggers, might we become entirely immune to them? We might be forced into a complete reinvention of how human beings even communicate. Because if machines can instantly hack that tiny 1.5 to 3 second window at scale, we might just close the window for good.